Hey, it's Bailey Wiki. This is the March 2025 Design With Me series where I build Foundry scenes using free modules and tools. All assets are Bailey Wiki assets available with a 1-month Patreon sub, but these tools work with any creator's assets. So unless I say otherwise, all modules are free. Let's dive into the next map. Okay, we're making a copy again of our, this time our 5x diorama template. This is 5 dioramas in one. I'll make that copy and then we'll go ahead and activate it. And let's start randomizing. Let's just see what randomization comes up with. Remember, there's hundreds of combinations just within the ruined tiles themselves. And once I really like this thing in the middle, this central piece. So I kind of want to build around that. So I'm just going to double click the ones around the edges and see if I get something that I like. Just kind of match the terrain or see if I get some inspiration. It's pretty good. I like this. It feels like there's a lot of little enclaves and things here. And so it's giving me some ideas to change this around. Now I'm going to select each of these individually and just move them around and just kind of see how I want them to merge together. This is how you create a nice effective map. It's got that nice black background around it. And so it really just becomes the terrain that we're going to build around. And I'm deciding, what goes over what and, how do these things lay on top of each other. I can move tiles up and down vertically from each other, put some, over the others. This is feeling pretty good. This feels like an old ruin, and maybe somebody's going to be occupying this ruin. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so with this as a starting point, let's bring up our category browser. We'll look up settlement. And there's some goblin pieces in here. I'm going to shrink this down so I can actually see the names. So I've got this brush for these goblin or orcish um, canopies. So these would be good to kind of set around. Since it's a brush, it's just randomly going through the options. And you can see it's just great textures to add really fast, right? And can really be pretty fast to set up some kind of settlement. And I'm just pressing Control and Shift and then mouse wheeling, and it's random. It's going through the random options that I have, and there's probably 100 of these things too. So it's really easy to create a lot of detail really fast. So I think the way I want to do this, I think there's going to be maybe some orcs that have created an encampment here in this old ruin. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe there's like, right now I'm thinking maybe there's like some kind of chieftain or something in the middle here. But maybe we want to do something different in the middle. So let's look up some animated canopies. And let's see what we find here. So we'll add that to a brush. And yeah, kind of like this like really ratty looking canopy. I feel like where I'm going with this is I want like an arena. This orc tribe is, full of warriors and that's their ethos, and take that randomization option off so I can just cycle through all the options here. Yeah, that's pretty good too. I think of like, movies like Gladiator, where you've got those old gladiator arenas that have, canvas and wood, and they're kind of ratty. And this feels like a great place for that. And just two animated tiles gives it a ton of life, right? So let's look up blood, and we'll use this brush one because it's already kind of built in with all the blood pieces randomized. And let's start putting some blood splatters around. Right, that's definitely a well-used arena. And then I wanted some pillars. I want some verticality here, maybe some things that make it more interesting for a battle. And so I've got these pillars that actually are overhead tiles, these spikes, what they're called. It's actually an overhead tile with, some walls at the base, and the overhead tile doesn't occlude, so players can walk underneath it, and it feels like they're really, you know, under these pieces. I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to do something here. I'm going to first, I want to make sure they all have drop shadows, so it feels like they're really up off the ground here. And then I'm going to apply this turn to stone effect, and you can see it desaturated them, took the color out of them, and it applied some cracks and other things that make them, I don't know, just maybe look a little bit more like they were originally part of the environment. And let's see, what else would be tactically interesting? I think some pillars in the middle of the battlefield would also be good. If I'm going to have players fighting in here, I want some sources of cover for them. And I'm using some of these pillar presets just to quickly do that, and I don't have to add walls to them. Makes it pretty simple. And notice I turn on Pixel Perfect, and now I can grab the pieces that I want because it just looks for their pixels and it doesn't look for their hitboxes around them. So definitely recommend turning on Pixel Perfect when you're designing. And of course, I added some drop shadows to these pillars as well, again, just to make them stand up off the ground. There's a macro to add drop shadows. You can also add it from the brush. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I use drop shadows so often that I just put the macro in my macro bar. And now I want to add another ambient sound. So I'm going to go to the sounds folder. This is all within towns. And let's try some Michael Gelfi first. Michael Gelfi is his own amazing Patreon. I recommend it highly. I've been subscribed for years. I think at the highest tier, and because of that, I get to use some Michael Gelfi loops within my own module, so you guys get access to these. And yeah, I just want to make it seem like there's a settlement here. So I'm going to copy these day and night ambient sounds, and these just spread across the whole map. So there's just a general ambient sound, and that'll make it feel like there's a settlement here, not just in nature, but there's voices and talking. And I use just tiles for these, so I'm going to come through and just make some special walls. I'm going to really have the wall do nothing else but just and maybe block movement and light. Everything else will be none, and I'll give them a height and a bottom. And now that I've got that set, I'm going to use the clone wall tool and just kind of generally follow the outline of this. I don't want to create more walls than is necessary. Walls and lights, they all just degrade performance just very slightly for each one, but they add up. So I'm just going to draw these around here just to show you how you can drop in lights and have it make it look like they're occluded. I'm just going to trace the outlines of these. And probably need one here because we'll have some lights that might intersect in some way. That's feeling good. And now I just noticed I'm going to press Shift D on this and resize a little bit. And then I'm going to change its There we go. Let's add a drop shadow. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so now it's probably a good time to add some lighting. Let's get some torches added to the scene. So we'll hold control and we'll grab a couple of torches from, you know, from the library, add those to a brush. Let's turn our lights down so we can see how the lighting affects the scene as we place them. All right, let's see. We've got some problems with our size here, so we'll fix that in a second. There we go. Sometimes you have to reset your brush so that it picks up the dimensions of the scene. We put some torches down. These torches are all matte enabled, so they can be snuffed out if they're clicked. And we'll fix the occlusion problem, why the torches are shining through those walls that we just made. We'll fix that in a second. Put a couple torches at the entrance to the arena. Seems appropriate. Put some around. This works. Maybe we're going to have a fight at night. And then, our players might have to make their way and kind of let the torches sort of create a path for them. And let's put in a campfire. We'll make it a brush because we might put a couple of these down. So we'll kind of resize it the way we think it might go. Campfire's matte enabled. Also, if you right click it, you can change it, which we'll do here in a second. And then we just press Control A to select all of our lights and then Shift E to edit everything. And we're going to constrain these by elevation. And that's what makes them now occlude. So you can see they're not shining on the canopies anymore. It looks like they're more like underneath or casting light underneath them, right? And we'll put our player in. Let's start to test this out. Listening to our audio. I think our arena is looking pretty good. Just kind of walking around the map so we know how it feels when players walk through it. Yep, our toggles are working. It's always good to test your map. So like just seeing, for example, that those walls there, I'm going to make these so that I'm going to search for everything that's got these walls. I pressed Shift F or find to find those. And I just want to make them so they don't restrict sight and they don't restrict movement. They're really just going to restrict the light that's shining around them. I'm going to just right click this and keep cycling this till I have something that looks like it might be a good orc campfire and a big piece of meat getting roasted over it. This is feeling pretty good. You add some dramatic battle music and you've got to, throw some orcs and NPCs around here. Maybe there's a big monster they're going to fight in the middle. It's feeling pretty nice. And then just to add a little bit more life to this, we're going to add some black birds using FX Master. And that'll give us these black birds of different sizes kind of flying through the map here and there over our players' heads. And let's bring the lights up and see what we've got here. Now, of course, I could add more walls. I could try to, separate some of these sections with walls. when I'm designing for you guys, I don't typically try to do too much of that. Let you decide where you want extra walls when you're getting ready to play. What I do notice is that a lot of the map is stuck outside of the map dimensions. And so I'm going to show you guys a little trick here. I'm going to press L for the linker menu, and I'm going to attach everything to that one tile. So now I've made a giant prefab out of this whole map. So it's all one piece now. And if I move any component of it, it'll move the rest of the map. And so now I'm going to select my player, see where my edges of my map. Of course, I could just make the background not black temporarily. But I'm just seeing if I need to move the stuff around to get a little bit more of the map within the picture or within the frame. That's looking pretty good. I can see really the whole thing now. So just a little trick to teach to show you guys how to make that work. And now I'm going to select that original one. I'm going to press unlink or U, and that's going to decouple all of the components again. So now all of those components are separated. If I hit Shift Q, I can bring up the linker menu, and I just right click that giant one in the middle. That just decoupled all of those. So now I'm back to having a bunch of separate pieces. Get rid of some of these extra things. And that's a pretty dang good map. In just a few minutes, we've got a pretty complicated map with lights and walls and sounds and everything else.
So that's it for this map. Grab these assets on my Patreon, link in the description if you want to support the channel as well. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell for updates, and drop a like or a comment. Your questions actually help the community and the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and have fun making your maps.